Well, good evening and welcome everyone. Welcome to Blackwood Uniting Church for the first in our Journeying series for 2021. The Journeying series being renamed from our previous occasional series, which has been running for the last several years. A welcome to all the visitors we have, and it's absolutely wonderful to see so many faces here today. Some of you are familiar to me, others not. For those who don't know me, my name's Michael Dowling. I'm privileged to be the minister here at Blackwood Uniting Church. Just a couple of housekeeping. You will have already sorted out refreshments, which is a very important thing. For anyone who does need the toilets during the night, they're just simply down the corridor to the right. This is sure to be a wonderful evening of musical inspiration and journeying with people that I've just heard legendary things about and hadn't actually met any until this evening. So I am looking forward immensely to tonight. Well, if I explain myself as a lapsed Catholic, would that explain it? It explains a lot of things, frankly. Anyway, before we get on to this evening and journeying through music, a reminder that we have brochures on some of the seats. If you've missed out on a brochure, there are more as you leave the chapel tonight, and it's a description of the 5 different events that we'll be running this year. And it's, I guess, Blackwood's way of exploring faith and spirituality in a wider, I guess, more nuanced way than might be typically covered during worship. So we have tonight, of course, music. We'll be, during the year, journeying through the Word, journeying through art, journeying through science, and journeying even beyond belief. But tonight, it's music. And we're delighted to have Robin Mann, delighted to have Lee Newton and Doug Simper. Also joining is Doug Petherick and Rod Boucher. We are, I think, in store for some wonderful history, some wonderful song, and a fascinating night of stimulation. So with that extremely brief introduction given, I hand over to Malcolm MacArthur for a much more personal and in-depth exploration with our panellists.
Well, thank you, Michael. If you look around, you'll see graffiti on the walls. Well, not quite graffiti. Images of a journey. On this side, the journey to Advent. And on that side, the journey up to Easter. Alison Sutcliffe has contributed this sense of journey, and as there is a theme of journeying through the year, it's appropriate that you see what this can mean. So this is the beginning of our journey tonight, and each of you 3 have been on your own journey over almost half a century.
Absolutely.
So thank you. They'll be given 20 minutes, give or take a minute, to each of the 3 songs and conversation. Now, they met quite wonderfully on Friday night with the Historical Society and had sort of a 10-minute pitch. No pictures this time, but invitation in a conversation to reflect on 3 or 4 questions. And it just may be possible that, Rod, right at the end, we may ask you and Doug to involve yourselves in a dialogue lasting a little less than 2 hours, but maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
That's fine.
About music and the Word.
Yep.
So thank you. I think we need to sing together a song from Robin Mann, Wherever I Go. And his wife, Dorothy, will be the leader. this incidentally is a song well known at Blackwood, one of many man songs in Together in Song.
This one didn't make it in Together in Song. It was written a bit late, really. That's right. Wherever I go, well, I think I'll be having some more things to say about it later, so let's just do it, I think. Here we go, Doug. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wherever I go, whatever I do, whoever I am, I'm going with you. No matter the time, no matter the place, however I move, you walk at my pace. On every day of every year, the weather may change, but you're still here.
Jesus, you're the light for the journey. You're the destination and the road. You provide the signs along the highway. You're the best companion I know. Wherever I go,
Whatever I do, whoever I am, I'm going with you. No matter the time, no matter the place, however I move, you walk at my pace. On every day of every year, the weather may change, but you're still here.
we could be delighted or dejected at the beach or standing in the rain. And Jesus, you will never ever leave us. We can trust your blood and your pain. Wherever I go, whatever I do,
whoever I am, I'm going with you. No matter the time, no matter the place, however I move, you walk at my place. On every day of every year, the weather may change, but you're still here. Take all our fear, make us brave, make us strong. Earth is our home, this is where we belong.
Jesus, you're the light for the journey.
You're the destination and the road.
You provide the signs along the highway. You're the best companion I know. Wherever I go, whatever I do,
whoever I am, I'm going with you. No matter the time, no matter the place, however I move, you walk at my pace. On every day of every year, the weather may change, but you're
still here.
but
You're still here.
but you're still
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's great.
I have to confess at being very good at stuffing up. So I asked one of our very good bands, what songs do we know well? And that was one they suggested. But it was supposed to be a song written long ago, and it says 1997. Which is a long
It's a while
time
back,
for some
but it's
of
not
us.
that long ago.
But let's have another song, Robin, which will not be on the screen, but more recent.
But some of you may know the words for this one. This is a good deal older again, and this one is in Together in Song.
a good 17 years before that
That's
one.
right, 1980. No, we've got that shouldn't be up. Well,
Yeah.
ignore that. That's for another song later. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. It just happens to be a Lenten song. When his time was over, the palms lay where they fell. As they ate together, he told his friends farewell. Jesus, though you cried out for some other end, love could only choose a cross when our life began again.
Secretly they planned it with money changing hands. In the quiet garden, a kiss betrayed their man. Priests and elders tried him, soldiers crowned him king. We were in the crowd that day when our life began again.
Women wept to see him. He said, "Don't weep for me." Many laughed and mocked him. Forgive them, they don't see. Jesus, please forgive me. You know what I am. I was one who nailed your hands when our life began again.
There was one who asked you, remember me this day. Jesus, when I'm dying, remember me that way. When my life is over, be with me, my friend. Like the thief upon the cross when our life began again.
Didn't you love that ending of each verse, when our life began again? I think that's very special. And I saw one of our organists nodding all the way through, but not sleeping, just nodding. Couple of questions, Robin and Dorothy. Did you begin songwriting with a particular group in mind? You know, you have to, can you remember a long way back? Who'd you write for?
The first song I wrote when I was 15 years old, and I was just fiddling around, and I'd learnt the guitar, and I guess I'm not going to tell you what the song was or what it was about even, but
I'll tell you if you pay me. It was pretty awful.
but we were very fortunate, Dorothy and I. We were invited to be part of a group in 1971. Rod Jepson, Presbyterian minister at Scott's Church, invited us to be part of Kinderchrist, and they were a group starting to play for churches and doing leading congregational singing. We played everywhere in 1971, and every denomination, Catholic, Anglican, Baptist, Congregational, Methodist, of course, Lutheran, of course, lots of other places. So we had initially used American songs, but we needed some new songs, and so I started writing songs for the group, basically, and yeah.
Oh, Dorothy, you've been collaborating with Robin for several years now.
That's one word. Yes, I like that verb.
We're going to celebrate, next month we're going to celebrate 55 years when we first started going together. So, yeah.
Our daughter once said, when she was in junior primary, she said, "Mummy can't come and hear reading today because she's accommodating Daddy with music." And the teacher, who I thought was this very straight person, and she just thought that was so funny.
Well, accommodation here. Yeah.
Dorothy doesn't write, but Dorothy is the first person who hears the songs and is the critic and the editor, really, or editor in the sense of, why don't you have a different look? The words are good. No, the music doesn't work. Try and write another tune.
The last line of...
In fact, the When Our Life Began Again, that's the 5th tune. So I had 5 tunes before I got to that one, and I'm sure that Dorothy had a word or two to say about them along the way. So there you go.
Yeah. But what was the question?
I can't remember that back.
Bit of mansplaining there.
Have your songs changed in recent years? You know, we talk of journeying. Has there been a journeying in your songwriting?
I'm sure there has been. There have been changes in the sense of there's new styles, there's styles I didn't used to do, and things come along the way and you think, oh yeah, I'll try and do something like that. I wouldn't say there's been major changes. Although one of the big changes for me was in the early days, I wrote very much songs that we could sing to people. And as time went on, the ones that really caught people's attention were the songs that we all sang together. And more, I think I've just written songs that people can sing together. And that's really shaped the way I've written stuff.
I really like that, the songs with people rather than to people.
Yeah.
Well, here's a song that it may be half with and half to. Would you like to sing it with two?
Yeah. Do you want to sing? Well, this is one. This is called Thank God You're Here. Now, many of you will know there was a television program called Thank God You're Here, which was very funny. Our minister decided to use it as a theme.
It should be on the screen.
For a sermon, and and so I thought, oh, I should write a song. Well, it's one of those songs that took a little while. I had lots of good words, and the tune was a bit crap. Well, Dorothy heard it, and our son John heard it, and they didn't think much of it. John's reaction was probably, oh yeah.
Underwhelming. That's John.
That's John. He's unlike his twin brother Tom, who's the drummer, and he would have been much more forthcoming, I'm sure. And look, you won't have heard this before, I'm sure. It was in the last All Together book we put out, but it's there's something. There's a line in it at the end of each verse. Is "Thank God You're Here." Dorothy will sing those lines, and join in there at least if you want. That's good. Otherwise, just hum along. That's fine. You're the beginning of everything, maker of air and cloud and wing. You're the creator of stars that sing. Thank God you're here. We are originals, everyone. Never again will our race be run. No one will ever do what you've done. Thank God you're here. See all the stars in the night time. Where have they gone in the day? Wonder and miracle everywhere. Thanks for letting me stay. Tyrannosaurus has gone away. Now the humans have their say. We'll be history one day. Thank God you're here. Marvel at everything you can.
Oh, what a woman,
What a man. Blade of grass and a grain of sand. Thank God you're here. Fabulous fish in the ocean. Beautiful birds in the air. Under the ground, underwater. Whoa, another world there. You're the beginning of everything, maker of air and cloud and wing. You're the creator of stars that sing. Thank God you're here. We are originals, everyone. Never again will our race be run. No one will ever do what you've done.
Thank God you're here.
Thank God you're here. Thank God you're here. Thank you, Doug. Thanks very much.
Well, we're glad you're here too. Thank you. But just a couple of minutes for any questions from the audience before you disappear and go down entirely. Any quick questions, and we may need a roving mic if possible. Here's one question.
Every possible thing. But a lot of what when I'm writing, a lot of it is, in fact, there's a theme, and it can start with the words or it can start with the music, and there's just something that pops up. Wherever I Go, for example, started actually out of a dream. And now, I don't normally dream songs or anything, but I didn't actually dream the song, but I had this dream where I had to sing for these kids at a camp, and I was walking down the road, and they were pretty bored with that. Which actually doesn't happen. Walking down the road, I still sing, and kids love it. But anyway, that's another story. But wherever I go, so I woke up thinking I need to write a new song, and Wherever I Go was the song that I wrote, which is sort of picks up some of the same things. Don't know.
Great question, great answer. Anyone else?
I haven't kept up with your Altogether series. What's your latest?
The last Altogether book was called Altogether All Right. It was the white book. It's the 7th one, and it's undoubtedly the last one, because 7's the perfect number. I didn't feel I could stop at 6. It was Altogether for Good, and people said, "Is this the last song?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm not sure. That's based on Bible text, but Altogether for Good, Altogether All Right is the last one." Okay, so it's 658 songs or something. Yeah.
Going, gone, the very last question.
Robert, have you done songs outside of the church?
Not many, no. Basically, I've written for church. Occasionally I've written songs that can be used and have been used. The best known would be a song called Sadako from Hiroshima, which was used in primary school, has been used in primary schools all around the country, and was in the best of the ABC Sing book or whatever it's called. Festival of Music it was used in, and But apart from that, no, mostly I've just written, I sort of figure that's what I'm particularly designed for, I think. Yeah, I'm a pastoral musician.
Right. Well, you are allowed to give a round of applause to Robert and Dorothy. Thank you very much. I think we'd better hear a song from Lee. And it's Search Me, O God, and that's one that we sing quite a bit here, so we know.
So do we at St Stephen's.
Search me, O God, and know my anxious heart. Behind me and before me, you lay your hand upon me. Where might I hide to flee your tender touch? No darkness or the ocean hides me from your devotion. You know my every need. You know my thoughts, my joy, my crying. God, your wisdom ways surround me at my birth, my dying. Woven by you, deep in my love surpassing, guide me in all its lasting. You know my every need. You know my thought, my joy, my crying. God, your wisdom ways surround me at my birth, my dying. Search me, O God, and know my anxious heart. Behind me and before me, you lay your hand upon me.
Thank you, Lee. Right, you want to hide behind this mic for a couple of minutes?
All right. Do some talking first.
Do some talking first. That's a hauntingly beautiful and very personal song, Lee.
I wrote the tune, but I wrote the chorus tune.
Now, where did that song come from? Why did you write that?
You know, we were living at Mount Compass, and I had a little office attached to our shed that I had attempted to fit out, and I went into. I was listening to John Carger's show on Radio National of singers of renown. John has passed away now, but his introductory theme was this beautiful La Pathétique from Beethoven, and it was just asking for a song to be written for it. So I talked to Tanya. You know, I was saying, my wife, you know, it's just asking for a song. What's a good verse or reading? And she said, well, my favourite psalm is 139, and so the song began.
Well, it works.
It certainly does.
I was in a church in England for a time, and I tried out Bush Christmas, and they loved it.
Christmas in the Scrub?
Christmas in the Scrub.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bush Christmas was
No,
Norm Harble and
not
others.
outside it. No, that's Outback Christmas.
Outback Christmas.
I wrote the music for that. Lee
Oh.
wrote Christmas in the Scrub.
Look, I'm sorry, I'm all up the track. But they loved it. The Australian imagery, of course, went over well. I especially like the Holden Ute.
That's Christmas in the Shed.
That I did a second book
Have I got the wrong song?
called Christmas in the Shed, which and I put in a song of Colin Buchanan's, which was the Jingle Bells tune, you know, the Rusty Holden Ute. But that's I had to put that in because it's such a popular song.
Oh, it was very popular in England. And in your local community, how's that local community changed over this time? You were at Mount Compass, you're at Bridgewater now, but have Hills communities changed since you moved into the Hills?
I guess so, but I'm not sure in any particular profound way. I think I know in your preparatory questions to us, you asked about sort of changing theologies, and I suspect it's with the whole church. I don't know, but I can only reflect on my own theology, in that now my songs are more open to more things. I think my theology is less clear as I get older. It's bigger, and I'm open to more questions. I'm open to what prayer is, because most of my prayer doesn't seem to be heard. But I'm also open to the idea that prayer is a means of acting, of being comforted, and prayers being answered in then who we talk to and what we do and how we change the world. And it's also, that links in with my understanding of heaven. I no longer have this sense of, oh, when I'm dead it'll be wonderful, I'll be in heaven. That doesn't make any sense to me anymore. In that, for me, look around. Look at what we've got. This is heaven. And Jesus, I'm not saying that all is rosy, but Jesus was giving two indications around heaven here amongst us, and then a later heaven of some sort, but I don't know what that is. But I'm intrigued by the possibilities of that here, and so there's huge implications for what we do as Christians with this climate crisis. This is our only earth, our only means of survival, and if this is God's heaven, if this is God's earth, there's a few implications there for us. And why aren't we on a war footing? Why aren't we all at home doing what we can? You know, because this is potentially bigger than any war we've ever experienced in terms of what we're about to face in 30, 100 years and so on.
I think you've answered that question I had. And I love listening to songs of praise. It's an exercise in nostalgia, but sometimes I think some of those Latinate words and abstractions don't quite meet me anymore. And the words of your songs and Robin's and Doug's are not Latinate abstractions. They're more immediate and more personal.
Yeah.
And that I find helpful. I think perhaps you'd better sing us another song. And that's that was a fairly recent one. You said you couldn't find any songs that went back to the 60s, could you?
I'm a bit younger than Robin, and
Not much, Lee. You're getting there.
Well, you're younger than a lot of us.
well, I matriculated in 72, and I know that any song that I did in the 1960s was crap. And so I won't be singing any of those. But I think for a songwriter it just takes working and working until you finally think you've got something, and then you just keep on doing it again and again, and some of those songs will be good, I hope.
Yes, I would play the first 6 or something. There's this practice. You reckon this will reach? If it doesn't, I'll hand it through to you.
Yeah. No, right.
Over the top. Over the top. Take that away. It's coming.
Yeah, I'm good. Some years ago, Tanya was doing a Master of Divinity at Wartburg Lutheran Seminary in Dubuque, Iowa. And there was a student there coming out of the Catholic Church who played piano accordion and was a songwriter, and we collaborated on a handful of songs at the time. And we continued to do that via Skype, and he sends me stuff and I send him stuff. And this is one of those collaborations. It's also a reflection on this new understanding of heaven. So I'm going to teach it to you. So it's a fairly short song. I've been thinking I actually need to do another verse to turn it into a real song, but here's the verse 1. If you love me, follow in my footsteps. If you love me, follow in my way. And God will send the Spirit of truth, and I will be revealed in you. This is how we walk on the mercy road. Here we go. Back to verse 1. If you love me, follow in my footsteps. If you love me, follow... Hang on, just have to fix this up. If you love me, follow in my footsteps. Goes back up, unexpected. If you love me, follow in my way. All right, from the top. If you love me, follow in my footsteps. If you love me, follow in my way. Have a listen. And God will send the Spirit of truth, and all will be revealed in you. This is how we walk on the mercy road. Try that section. And God, there it is. And God will send the Spirit of truth. And there it is. God will send the Spirit of truth. Try it. And God will send the Spirit of truth, and all will be revealed in you. Try it again. And God will send the Spirit of truth, and all will be revealed in you. Revealed in you. Tricky. This is how we walk on the mercy road. From the top. If you love me, follow in my footsteps. If you love me, follow in my way. And God will send the Spirit of truth, and all will be revealed in you. This is how we walk on the mercy road. Whoops, I got one word wrong there. I haven't sung this much. Verse 2. If you love me, find a new direction. If you love me, take another road. For as I live, you too shall live in all the love that you can give. This is how we walk on the mercy road. And listening. I will give you refuge, lift you up in your despair. And you will be the same for those I give you. Your turn. I will give you refuge, lift you up in your despair, and you will be the same for those I give you. Now that bridge only happens once in this song. It comes and it's gone, unless I write another verse. And then you'll sing it twice. But we're going to sing it now again anyway. Just once you've learned it, you have to sing it again. I will give you refuge, lift you up in your despair. You will be the same for those I give you. Verse 3. If you love me, love as I have loved you. If you love me, love each other well. For I shall live in all you do, live in the love you made God in you. This is how we walk on the mercy road.
Questions again from the audience. One. Yes.
For me, the Australian stuff is quaint, and that gets taken up by small numbers all over the shop. The songs that I see in my copyright returns are not those Australian ones though, from overseas. So it's other songs that have appeared in the Altogether book. So to some extent, my songs get picked up. Robin will need to answer for himself, I think, and Doug.
Several of my songs are used pretty widely they use bits and pieces in the States, and various ones some have been translated, Father Welcomes, and some others have been translated into other languages. So they do get picked up here and there, but mostly Australian. I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur, and I'm sure Lee, you're not such a great entrepreneur either, so we don't get our stuff out widely. I think everyone.
But other people get your stuff out widely.
Yes, they do.
Sometimes they escape.
They do. I remember Ralph McTell making that joke about an album of his that he put out that it wasn't released, it escaped.
And songs do have a life of their own. They're
They
like
do.
children. They just go off and explore the world.
Yeah, they do.
One of the things that I was thinking of saying when I was preparing for this was that you've heard the language of substitutionary atonement theology. The fact that in fact it's mainstream theology that somehow Jesus had to die for the forgiveness of our sins. Now, don't mind atonement theology, God coming to be with us, to be at one with us, but I'm backing away from this violent theology that the Hebrews wouldn't have even agreed with. Like, Hebrews, unlike other tribes at the time, weren't particularly interested in human sacrifice. And so they were distinct in that regard. Animal sacrifice carried on, of course. But it seems to me that the power of Easter is Easter morning. And I was reading this afternoon about this, and it was like God refusing to take our refusal to love. God kept on loving us and said, "Here you are. This is Jesus back again from the tomb, still with you." And so for me, you won't find me talking about this thing that God had to die somehow so that we could live, you know. And I know I'm fighting against the grain. I know I'm fighting against mainstream historical theology, but there's certainly a good number of serious theologians who really struggle with that piece of violent theology. That's not my God. The implications of that bit of theology are quite profound. That like there's that song. It's a popular song. It's in the White Book. Anyway, there's a line in there that God turned his face away. What? Anyway, that doesn't gel with me. I'll get out of your head.
No, actually, hang on. There'll be some more questions yet, possibly.
Oh, all right.
That you made me think of the favourite song for Methodist youth in my youth was "Amazing Love, and Can It Be That Thou, My God, Shouldst Die For Me." I could even sing the bass of that in those days, but everybody loved that song. I'm not sure I do anymore. And it was a great Wesley song, and it's still a part of my nostalgic tradition, but the language doesn't quite fit our generation, perhaps. Comment?
Lots of us can do both of them.
Oh,
Can I do one and the other thing? That's all.
well, I think that's possible too. And if you see it
It's true for me.
as art, if you see it as imagery, and if you don't see it as a scientific statement, then I reckon it can work for me.
I mean, it's all a mystery anyway.
Now, if you say it's a mystery,
Of course it is. I mean, but it's scripture, you know. It's like there's this explanation, that explanation, and my favourite is Colossians, which is very much about the big picture stuff.
yes.
It's great, but the smaller picture or the different picture, that's fine too. That's all right.
This seminar will be continued. But another question.
Thanks, Trish and Graham.
Thank you. When we were in England, the favourite song for funerals was All Things Bright and Beautiful. I think that went back to a Sunday school childhood, probably. And again, a bit of a nostalgia kick.
I think for me, one of my leanings is trying to be as open as possible with grief and pain and despair, rather than lingering on praise and glory and victory. And I reckon it's probably more of a Catholic tradition, but lament is so healing and powerful, and it just leaves space. It leaves space for healing. I know, I'm not a particularly over the top extroverted sort of person, but I know that for me, I find if there's 2 praise songs back to back in a service, suddenly the service is less because of it. Because as soon as you do that, you're starting to push out theology that's got the servant Christ, service, justice. If the whole service is of praise, then for me it's shallow. It doesn't feed. How'd they get onto that?
Well, thank you. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, thank you, Lee. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for those questions that are helping us search and probe and wonder and create. Talking of creation...
Yeah.
Whoops.
They're going to strangle you.
We have to be creative here too. Talking of creation, Doug, there's a Quintrell Simper song, Spirit of Peace. Would you like to share that? You and Lorna like to share that with us?
Yes. This is a very early song. It was written in 1949. No, I was born in 1944. I'm trying to work out when I came to Sunday school here, because in my head I was 3 years old and we sang Hear the Pennies Dropping out in that hall. But Anne, who was Anne Madden, Anne Dixon, says, might have been a bit later, so I could have been 5, but this was a very special place. Lorna will introduce and tell you about Neil and Song for Peace.
I might get our very great friend, Rod Boucher, to come and help with this as well.
Is it?
Well, it's here. Look. Okay. Oh, you have that one, and I'll have...
Now, that's a very dangerous thing you're doing there, Lorna.
Okay. Neil Quintrell wrote the words of Spirit of Peace, and we've been singing that, haven't we? Who knows the song Spirit of Peace? Hands up, I can't see. Right, okay. What I'm going to do is sing the first verse, and then I'm going to get Rod to sing the first verse while I sing the second verse, and Douglas over there will be singing along with Rod. And if you know it, join in, and then we will be singing it as a round, which makes it a bit tricky since you'll only have one lot of words up there. Okay.
Maybe so that could be side 1 and that could be side 2.
Yeah, we'll once we've sung it all through together, then we will divide up. When people despair, we would bring hope. In the shadow of fear, we would show faith. When hatred divides, we would endure. To people alone, we would bring love. Spirit of love, Spirit send love. Spirit of love, Spirit send love. Second verse.
When people are bound, we would be free. In the darkness of doubt we would affirm. Where others escape we would endure. When people make war we would bring peace. Spirit of love, peace. Spirit send peace. Spirit of peace. Spirit send peace.
Now, would you like to try it all together, the two verses, and then I will sing the first verse with you people on this side, and Douglas and Rod will sing the first verse after we've finished singing it.
So when you're singing the chorus, we sing it?
No, you have to take your turn, okay? We're starting off, and then you come in. Hang on, Douglas.
Here?
You doing
Yes,
it at the same time?
No, you sing up to people alone we would bring love. And
Yeah,
when you
and
start
then
singing
the-
Spirit of Love, we come in. Yeah.
Right, beg your pardon. Okay,
16
so
bars in.
you'll work it out as well. All right, here we go. Do it with us if you can. When people are there, we would bring hope. In the shadow of fear, we would show faith. When hatred divides, we would endure. To people alone, we would bring love.
When people are bound, we would bring praise. Okay.
Shadow of fear, we would show faith. When hatred divides, we would renew.
He's gone. Okay.
To people alone, we would bring love.
Douglas,
Do the second verse.
we're going to start again.
What a mess.
It's a mess. This is because I asked Rod
I'm a
to
music
join
teacher.
us.
Just get your act together, guys.
You want to go through the whole thing
What
first?
a terrible
Yes.
class.
We're all going
Terrible
to go
class.
through the whole thing first.
Okay. Oh, we're just going to sing it all in unison.
Yes.
First.
Oh,
First.
okay. Righto.
Right.
When people despair, we would bring hope. In the shadow of fear, we would show faith. When hatred divides, we would renew. To people alone, we would bring love. Spirit of love. Spirit send love. Spirit of love. Spirit send love.
When people are bound, we would be free.
In the
Shadow of doubt, we would affirm. Where others escape, we would endure. When people make war, we would bring peace.
Spirit of peace, Spirit send peace, Spirit of peace, Spirit send peace.
When people despair, we would bring hope. In the shadow of fear, we would show faith. When hatred divides, we would endure. To people alone, we would bring love.
When people are bound, we would be free. In the darkness of doubt, we would show faith. When hatred divides, we would renew. To people alone, we would bring love. Spirit of love.
In the darkness of doubt, we would affirm. When others
Spirit
escape,
send
we would
love. Spirit send love.
When people are bound, we would be free.
In the shadow of doubt, we would affirm. Where others escape, we would endure. When people make war, we would bring peace. Spirit of peace, Spirit send peace. Spirit of peace, Spirit send peace.
And an extra one for the extra one for the fellow on the data projector who had that pretty rough time there. Okay, Doug, question time.
Yep.
You
like
had a
being at
great
school.
collaboration with Neil Quintrell, who many of us loved and had the hugest respect for.
Yes.
And what happened in that collaboration? Was it that he wrote words and then you found music? Or that you wrote music and then he found words, or what?
Okay, just to preface that, we're talking about Nunyara Church, and this young fellow, he was the boss. He started all of this. So, thank you for marking. Yeah. So it was.
Years ago.
I'll just straighten that. Yeah. So it was. Yeah, that's easier. So Nunyara Church, and I was a wee lad. I'd just been married, and I'd been to Blackwood until I was 23, and we heard about this experimentation with worship, and we went down to Nunyara. From Blackwood up. Yeah, that's right. So the question about Neil, Neil, as you know, was a pharmacist, but had a great love of poetry and writing, and he would write the words. So it was, I think, never did I write the tune and he added words. He would write the words and I would add the music. However, there were times when it was very close, and when I wrote Turning Point of Time, I had the words, and kabam, the tune came, and I rang him up at midnight, said, "Get the champagne out, I'm coming up." And, we had a deep friendship. And I'd like to pay a tribute to Neil and Charmian, who came yesterday, but she didn't come tonight. That's Charmian Quintrell.
You and Lorna have dedicated your lives to music. It's been probably fairly difficult sometimes pretty solitary. What's this solitary life been like? Because there have been ups and downs for you, haven't there?
Okay, so we're talking about money. Being a musician...
Funny about that.
Yes, well, Lorna and I have had a career in doing concerts up and down the country, and my work has been largely as a music educator. So I've written a piano method called Hands-on Music, which is used in other countries. It's actually 9 volumes, and I need some help in raising money to finish off all the copying, because the computer copying, some people are really good at Sibelius. I can't be bothered. I'm really lazy. I can't be doing Sibelius. And so 4 volumes is not yet copied, but I'm not answering questions, so Malcolm's going to tell me off in a minute. So we moved from Adelaide to Sydney in about 87, and we were freelance musicians. I did get some commissions, and I ended up working for Dun & Bradstreet as a sales rep. That wasn't good. So after a year and a half, I moved up to a church in Doncaster and subsequently down to Somerset, and I kept writing children's music, piano music, a range of music, and we did lots of concerts, and it was a lot of fun. But yes, money was not a big factor. And then we came to about 4 years ago, and our family were saying, "Come home and do the proper grandparent duties." And and our daughter, one of our daughters, had cancer, so we hot-footed it back here and in Sydney. We now live in Tathra, which is halfway between Sydney and Melbourne. You're all welcome. We've got plenty of beds, so come and see us in Tathra.
You and Rod have some interesting views on music and words, which are more important. And I heard the start of a little debate on that the other night. Why don't you tell Rod where he's wrong?
Rod, come up and join us. So
Wrong!
Aha! He's got a louder voice than me. So Rod and I became friends in when?
David, when?
The start of CSG 1969?
Yeah.
70. And Rod is a rock musician. He's a proper rock musician. And my background has a strong classical thread in it. So that's one area where I think we support each other pretty well.
We respect each other, yeah, but we have very different musical tastes. Although I love singing your songs.
Yeah. So, I mean, this really could be a pretty long and serious discussion. So, I've taken a view that as a composer, I want my music to last. I want it to be passed on from one generation to another. So, since we've known each other, I've always been writing fairly developed accompaniments and fully written out. Rod, more so.
I do takeaway music.
Yeah.
I do music for the moment, you know, and in fact, Dave and I, many years ago, first started, he played and I sang, and we just made it up on the spot. And I still do that now in churches for the Psalms, where you take the response and you just sing it, and the whole congregation sings back. And that moment when the Spirit works, to me, is incredibly important, rather than going through note after note and trying to work out what it is. That bores me to tears.
So Rod and I and David, who's sitting down here, started a group called the Creative Singing Group, and we had the 50-year reunion of that group yesterday, and it was incredible to have 51. Yeah. Jan Oliver sitting here as well as a big part of our lives. What CSG for me was to take me from a little Blackwood working class kid into somebody that would think about my life as music and composing in particular, because my parents left school at the end of primary school, and going to university or anything, music, that was a frill. And so it wasn't in my sort of plan, but things like, well, Blackwood Church, I started here writing songs for anniversaries when I was about 16 or 17, and CSG then propelled me forward, and here's the journey that we've been on together. And it led then to Rodan Publications, and Rodan did a lot of the early publishing.
Yeah.
That's a cue.
But I can't disagree with any of that.
Yeah.
So I tell you what's interesting is Sunday School anniversaries. I was at Westbourne Park Methodist. Vivi was nearly there. But, yeah, you were all there. But I was writing for Sunday School. So one of my first songs, which you did just, Hallelujah, 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 was for 300 kids to sing together. Mm-hmm. So the Sunday School anniversaries, they were huge at the time. We had 300 kids on tiered seating. So it was an enormous hit in the church. So that's interesting that that's
a common, I can remember the anniversaries here, and I think that our church, that is what was Methodist Uniting Church, really was on the road to something really significant, because music sings our soul, music sings the journey, and it doesn't come by accident. It comes through the work that all of the people that you have in front of you. Rod is right in that sense that music is passed on orally in the folk traditions. They didn't have notation. I'm also right in the sense that I'm a teacher, and I want the kids to have something to hang on to. So notation and a set of reasonably playable music is also important.
Yeah, I mean, I don't try and explain anything in my music. You know, I inevitably just do a word, and I sort of feel the congregations these days and groups of people are highly educated. And if I say talk, you have your own images. If I say grim, you have your own images. I don't want to explain them to you. So we did a song yesterday, Discover and Create. Discover the world in us, the world out us, the world without us. They're huge subjects, but I expect people to put their own thoughts onto it. And I think hymns in the past were teaching vehicles. I still think we're struggling with that.
I'm going to ask if people would like to ask a question of the two of them. Here's one.
I request that people leave their hand up until I reach you with the microphone. That way everyone will hear your question. Right, we have one at the back.
I probably could have shouted it, but this is easier for me. So I remember back in the late 60s, 70s, 80s, when there were you guys, other groups, Agape. The place was alive with young people doing new music everywhere. It was a fantastic time to be. Is it my age that I don't see that happening quite as much today? Or is in fact that the case, that in fact that liveliness, that spirit, that all those people aren't there today? And if that's the case, is that what we've got to look forward to in the future, or do you see a new beginning there somewhere on it?
I don't see any new beginnings. I'm very, very sad. Robin and I spoke the other day, and I said, we both said, we are sad. We have worked all our lives to speak about our faith in real and exciting and energetic ways. And I'm sorry, we're all the same age here practically tonight. The church is dying, and I don't know do we look for a Messiah? Do we look for a Wilberforce? Do we look for a preacher? I don't know what we do. We have tried, all of us have tried really hard.
Let's throw it open to anybody responding, obviously any of the three of you.
I'm on a CMLA committee for a songbook. The songs are chosen, and there's quite a number of young songwriters that have had songs selected for that. No, all is not lost. Yeah, the church needs to rethink everything because we're not seen as relevant, and we need to reinvent ourselves. But there are still plenty of young people who are grasping faith and have leadership. But they do need to be encouraged.
If I could make a comment, I don't think it's over at all. I'm not disagreeing with Rod because there is a crisis, and some of that's to do with whether we save the planet, and the song that we're going to do in a moment is called Act Justly. But my vision has been to pass the music on, so that's why we've travelled the country, and some of the time I'm in churches, but a lot of the time I'm in front of children. And so if the children get a handle on it and they enjoy that, then the future's guaranteed. So the church is not over by any means. The fact that we're all here just means we're mobile and we're retired and we've got free time. The kids may be playing football or whatever, but they don't give up on the kids.
Sunday afternoon.
Just building on that.
Alison?
Yeah, building on that question and discussion earlier, just a moment ago. Changing times. Do you think the advances in technology have enabled us to be colonised when it comes to music and what we sing?
Well, I would say yes, because we've got something called Hillsong.
But that's from Sydney.
I know. Hillsong is all around the world, and it's $1 million industry, and the theology I don't agree with. It doesn't say in the Bible when you meet God you're going to be rich, other than metaphorically. And so I'm sorry, but there might be people who love Hillsong, but I think it's made a lot of, we've been in churches all over the world and they sing it and there's good music, but I'm sorry, the theology is wrong.
I'll just ask Robin for a comment.
Rod was going to say something. Go for it, Rod.
I have just recently been invited to go on an 1980s CCM, Contemporary Christian Music website. Facebook face. I'm just watching. I've been watching for a month or 2 months. They have not mentioned one Australian album. It's all American. And in the 80s, I was in a band in Sydney, and we were trying so hard to express our faith in an Australian way. It's just like fighting a tsunami. And much of our life, that's what it's been.
Yeah, Rod, I think you've got a more depressive view of it than I do. I mean, I do think, obviously, times have changed enormously. The church is nothing. I mean, when we were first working, doing music and stuff, we had our student services with 300 or 400 or 500 kids turning up to St Stephen's. And it was just fantastic, and Kinderchrist would go and play, and it was great. It's different, all right? That's fine. There are still people, as Lee said, people coming to faith, there's kids writing songs. It probably isn't up to us. Our time is pretty well gone. Most of us are going to be gone within 10 or 20 years. So we probably have done our most creative work already, and so it's up to other people. And the Spirit of God is still at work. There's stuff going on in all sorts of different places, and you know.
And if I could add just one extra comment, you'll see in the foyer a book called Singing the Journey, and that's 100 songs, and some of them I just wrote last week. Well, that's not true. But it's a range of songs from my writing in the 70s right through to now, and I would take your bet that some of those songs will hang around, and they're written in 3 staves, so you can see the melody and the chords and get some decent piano accompaniment, really good piano accompaniment.
Heather.
Hi, Doug and everybody. When I heard the CSG singing yesterday over Facebook, I was transported back to the 1970s, and I just suddenly knew all these words that I had forgotten I knew, that were still in my head, parked there quite nicely. And I was wondering whether you could comment a little bit on the connection, that the beautiful conjunction of music and emotion and memory and belonging. You know, I sing in an a cappella group, and we just love making sounds together, and we're not all people of faith by any means, but there's that massive joy, connection, memory, belonging thing that happens when you make sounds together. I'd just like you to comment a bit on that, if you could.
You know, yesterday was just fantastic. It was just the most, like 40 singers from, and the band was fantastic. Doug was in the band, and we had flute, and Douglas has amazing piano playing, you know, and guitar. It was just superb. And people's response was, this is like we're just 50 years ago. It's the same energy, the same enthusiasm. So there is something in the songs. There's an energy, there's a hope, there's a demand. You and I must decide. We must choose what we're going to do. So it was of the age. It was what Malcolm and others were preaching. But I think that comes through. But many of the community choirs that you hear around the world, and the community singing in choirs is booming everywhere. They're singing, you know, African American spirituals and stuff. So they're quite religious stuff. So somehow the faith still stays in, the word stays in the air. We're going to move, or whatever it is. Oh, that's one of mine. Yeah. But, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints, you know, it's somehow the faith is still in there.
So music really is a universal language, and I believe that music encodes our culture. I studied Aboriginal music. Music encodes the culture. So long after we've stopped arguing and fighting and so on, the music's still going to be there. So it's not going to die no matter what. From ancient times till now, there's a song. And music is living emotion, and I think the Spirit sings when we sing as well. I think it's wonderful. We're here because in a way we're sharing music and our journey as well.
And the language, oh, sorry, David.
I'll just preface it to say that I love music and I love singing and all of that. But our music, or our churches, are in auditoriums and in churches like this, and some people sing on a stage, some people sing hymns, some people sing the folk things, and some people are encouraged to be church in small groups and in homes. And I think there's 2 aspects of this that we see. On one side, the Pentecostal church, which is just flourishing worldwide. So in the sense of what is the Spirit saying within that, even though we seem to disagree with it at so many levels. But also, what is the implication for us to take up the responsibility of music or worship, or did Jesus ever sing a song? Putting our whole thrust on that, or is there a different aspect of church that is arising that we don't know anything about?
One behind
when I think of gospel music these days, I think of Gurumul, gospel album. I think of Rick Price from Queensland. I think of Paul Kelly and U2. It seems as if there's been an explosion right under our noses in the last decade, but it really seems to penetrate the stained glass windows. What is your thoughts about that, panel?
You're positive, you need to answer.
I mean, it's excellent music, but it's not the gospel. I mean, they're good songs, great songs, but rarely does the gospel get a look in. Jesus doesn't get much of a look in. So, I mean, to me, gospel music, it's all very well to say it's lovely music and it feels great. To me, being Christian is not about feeling great. It's about following Jesus. And that's a different story altogether. Now, I know some of you will find that incredibly narrow, but that to me is what it's about. And what we need to do as Christians is to keep telling the story and reflecting on the story, and we can do that with songs and with paintings and conversation, whatever we want to do. But to me, that's our job, is to keep doing, just telling the story, keep passing it on.
I wonder if we have to check how we tell it.
Of course.
Lewitcha O'Donoghue, who was down here at Colebrook as a small child, she heard them singing "Wash Me and I Shall Be Whiter Than Snow,"
Okay.
and that didn't work.
Back in 1988, let me just share a brief story. Lewitcha O'Donoghue was the invited speaker to speak at the United, or sort of combined ecumenical service, which we had in Hindmarsh Square. Kinderchrist was playing for it, and the Catholic women especially, who were preparing things, had selected the story of Jacob falling asleep and having this dream of the stairway to heaven and all that. And I was asked to write a song. And I wrote the song, "You Were in This Place." And in fact, it's saying, God's here in this place. And to me, what Lowitcha had to say that day, and "You Were in This Place," all fitted together. It's like saying, God was here and we didn't even know it. Because Lutherans especially, we had a radio program called "Bringing Christ to the Nations." Well, actually, no, Christ was already here. But we could tell people about it, and that's fine, but Jesus was already here. Anyway, yeah, sorry. Maybe it's not elucidated.
I do think
As one-
something like U2 sing, "And I still haven't found what I'm looking for." They're asking questions.
Yes.
But we generally, as musicians, are expected to sing positively, not just ask questions, but to encourage them.
We can do a bit of both, but yeah, that's right.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this afternoon just so much. It's been wonderful. But something that Rod just said made me think, my goodness, he was there too, which I didn't know. I was privileged to be the Heads of Churches coordinator of that day. And it was my task to find the speaker. And so we searched. We didn't have to search very long. I said, here we've got just 84, I think, Australian of the Year, a South Australian, an Indigenous woman, an Indigenous person and a woman. What better on Australia Day than to hear someone with her developing experience just to share her story. And she said to me, when we talked about planning it, she said, "Can I tell my story?" And I said, "You should." And she did. And that was really a very powerful morning. I concur with the spirit of Rod's song that day, but other things that happened, other groups that engaged. It was a very compelling open-air moment on a day which carries with it all sorts of its own controversy that we'll probably work through before very long. One other thing I wanted to say is that you all know that you all know that Amazing Grace is the world's pop hymn. It's sung all over the world in moments of stress, need, tragedy. Someone will stand up and begin to sing it. And it makes me think, you've got this whole concourse of people in so many places who will sing a song, and I say to myself, do they understand what they're singing? And I have the feeling that those words speak to those people, and that it helps to maintain that spirit of openness. God is going to work in lots of people's lives, even because that song is sung in the way it is. There's a cyclic hope, I think, and music will play a very strong role in it as the years go on. So all you have to do is keep tapping younger people on the shoulder, and they'll do it.
I appreciate those questions and this conversation, and I think it's probably time for a new song from Doug and Lorna. And this wasn't pre-planned, Doug and Lorna, but after that, because you have them in your book, I wonder if we could finish the singing with a song that was sung by some 5,000 people at the World Council of Churches Assembly in Canberra in 1989. It was called, in those days, Lord of Our Days. It might have to be you and Lorna and any others who can remember bits of it, but that was a song that came from Doug and Neil that 5,000 people at the World Council of Churches Assembly sung, and that was quite an experience. But firstly, Act Justly.
So I'm not sure if I'm on air. So this is a new song, and I've always loved the Micah reading. It's probably the foundational reading for my whole life. My father was killed in 1944 fighting the Japanese. I was born in 44. In 45 in Borneo, and so I started my journey in life without a father, and I kept saying, this is really odd. What causes human beings to hate each other and fight wars? And so I've dedicated my life to peace and justice. And so I've also started writing words. Neil Quintrell was just stunning, and so I didn't dare write words for 30 years. And then I started experimenting, and I think in this one I've said what I want to say. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Do you think you'd like to try that? It's not too hard. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God.
People of every land have fought for freedom. People of every faith have struggled for the truth. People across the world have built community. So join in the song of hope. Let justice rule the earth. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. How can we save this earth from mass starvation? How can we teach the world that money is not God? How can we build our homes and not destroy the land? For wealthy may hold the power, but meek inherit earth.
Just wait.
act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God.
Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your God.
Can we all share the path that Christ has shown us, blessing the poor and meek, our kingdom built on love? Can we all live in peace and build our commonwealth? Let justice transform our hearts and mercy light the way.
We're going to modulate. Act justly, love justly, and humbly with your
God. Act justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your
song which we don't have on the...
Yes, now just to explain, I didn't get to talk about theology and good stuff like that. And like Lee, I've been walking the Christian road a long time. And so I've got a lot of questions, and we could spend another couple of hours, but we won't, because we probably go home and enjoy our bed. It's been a long weekend. It's been a fantastic weekend up at Judith Rafferty with a seminar Friday night, and then all day yesterday. So the song we decided that word Lord was quite a big problem. So we moved through inclusive language and getting rid of what seemed to be time-laden language. But it wasn't until I was working on the book that I thought, okay, I've got to face a really tough one. And I talked to a lot of people and agonised about it. I rang writers, Don Bell's sitting here, and one of the writers that I worked with, and I said, what's to be done about this? And there's no particular answer, because we all love language and we are tied to our culture, and we can be very defensive about it. But we had lived in England, and the House of Lords wasn't a really nice group of people. They're a bossy lot, and the word Lord started to feel like it was part of the king and the crown and, you know, I'm boss, and macho, very macho sort of concepts. So we took the word Lord out of it. So I hope it won't upset people. And we've got light of our days, guide of yesterday, God our God forever, your people we are. And that's repeated. Light of our days, guide of yesterday, God our God forever, your people.
We don't have the words on the screen, so we're depending on you just to sing it.
All right, okay.
But it's...
I reckon some of you can join
there
in.
Yes, I think...
Well, Rod, you could join in.
Yeah, so I think we need some other singers to come up
Jan
here.
would know it,
Yeah.
yes. David would know it.
David.
Good. Oh, you right there? Oh, no, you haven't.
So we sang this yesterday, and it took me back to, we think about 1974. I wrote what's called the Adelaide Choral Eucharist for a big NCYC conference with thousands of kids, and I wrote music with full orchestra and multiple choirs, and we had a heck of a lot of fun. So that's where this song came from.
Light of our days, guide of yesterday, God our God forever, your people we are. yesterday. God, our God, forever your people we are. From many paths you fashion one history, a people of God, created to hold. For all who live the mystery of faith, Lord of our days, your people we are. From many wills you fashion community, a people of God, created to love. Being for all the promise of hope, Lord of our days, your people we are. Light of our days, light of yesterday, God our God forever, your people we are. Light of our days, light of yesterday, God our God forever, your people we are. From many calls you fashion one destiny, a people of God, created to be. For all who live the body of Christ, Lord of our days, your people we are. From many dreams you fashion a unity, a people of God, created to serve. We know through all the witness of love, Lord of our days, your people we are. Light of our days, light of yesterday, God our God forever, your people we are. Light of our days, light of yesterday, God our God forever, your people we
Wow. As somebody who grew up in the church in the 70s, the first real anthem that I heard wasn't out of the Methodist hymn book was Lord of Our Days at Adelaide NCYC in 75. So that song, I'm really pleased with the new words,
that's great.
which is wonderful because it retains the essence but makes it modern. Now, before I thank all these wonderful people, I also wanted to make a brief mention of Malcolm, Nancy and Peter and Lenona, and everybody else who's been involved in putting on tonight. I think they all deserve a round of applause. NCYC 75 was important to me, but also generally the music that all of you brought to young inquiring minds. We were exploring new ways to worship. We didn't want a 4-hymn sandwich. We wanted to do our thing. And the music that was liturgically and theologically good, was an important part of that. As I learnt to be a worship leader, as I learnt to participate, I'm not a singer. That's one reason I like the really good ones, because I can hide my voice in it. But they were important, and they're still important. And the words we use, and hopefully that's something we continue here at Blackwood particularly, is looking for the right music to fit the right services. And that is largely in part, and we sing a lot of the music from you guys. So thank you very much. So we have some thank you gifts, and we also have a gift for we thank Doug for being involved and joining us tonight. And Rod.
I'm at the airport.
And a taste of South Australia to take home with you. You're locals, but you can have it in South Australian produce anyway. So it is something, we hope you guys have all got something out of it at the end of a fairly long weekend from the sounds of it. I know we've all thoroughly enjoyed tonight. So thank you. Keep writing new music. Keep encouraging new musicians. And it's been really good to see some collaborations. I know Lee's done that a bit.
Can I throw in something there about how profound it is if you ask somebody to write a song? You don't end up just with a song, you end up with someone who's that little bit more empowered and encouraged. And I know Blackwood asked me to write a song many years ago, and I didn't know whether it worked. It took me 3 months to work out that I was proud of it. But actually encouraging a songwriter by honouring them and saying, will you write a song for us, is a very powerful thing and encourages somebody for the next few decades. It's a good thing to do.
So thank you again on behalf of everybody who's here, and we look forward to seeing you, some of you, again on the 16th of May when we journey through the Word with, I think it's Vicky, is it? Yes, Vicky Balabansky. So we look forward to sharing that time with you. Thank you again.
The book of Colossians.